right, what's up, everybody? This is Ciara.
And this is Alesa.
And we are still here with our living room talk.
Yeah.
But this is living room talk part 2. All right. We still got our guests with us. We know last week we rolled over a little bit and, we started getting into the meat of things. So I do think you all would enjoy if we gave it to you all in its totality. So this is part 2, and we're still here with Corey and DonTaé.
Yo, what's up?
Yo.
A lot of women have misconstrued the meaning of submitting. And this might be another podcast, I don't know. But I think there is a misconception about what it means to submit. When the Christian man wants a woman to submit to him, it is definitely looked at as though, oh, you can't become the CEO of a company and submit. They act like both can't coexist. You can't be an amazing, strong woman like you are and still submit. It's almost like they look at it as it has to be one or the other, or that submitting is a bad thing. And maybe we do explore that in another podcast, but I do think that, especially the Christian man, I'm not going to say that this is all men across the board, but the Christian man, I know that, because we're rooted in the word and that is strictly from the word, we are really, I don't want to say turned off, but we tend to keep our distance when we see that, oh, okay, she doesn't get it. She doesn't get what that means. So, yeah.
I cannot wait until the day in which I can come down from the 33rd floor of my job and go home to submit. Right? It's just the pressure that's being taken off of you. I just feel like I very much desire to rest in my husband, knowing that he is grounded and that he is rooted in the Lord. And thank God I don't have to make no decisions when I get home because my man gonna make them decisions. I think, and maybe some women have a problem with just submitting all around the board because they don't think that man is masculine enough. And I heard, a pastor say, well, if you ain't got no respect for that man, then technically you're doing yourself a disservice by being under somebody or sharing some time with somebody that you don't even respect.
Yeah.
Which is, that's why the Bible clearly outlines, it called men to love their wives and women to respect their husbands because God knows what's important to us, how he made us. But to your point, DonTaé, in Ephesians 5 is what he was mentioning, Ephesians 5:22, it's not women submit to all men, women submit to your boyfriend or the guy you're talking to. It says women submit to your own husbands. Right. You're only called to submit to one man on this earth. It didn't say submit to your daddy and submit to your cousin who's a brother too. It says submit to your own husband, the own husband to which you accept his, his engagement or his proposal. So this is a husband that you agreed to marry. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He's not saying submit to every guy that you run into. Yeah. But I heard it outlined like this. Submission is to be under the mission of your husband. And that does come with confidence in the type of man he is, confidence that he is listening and submitted to Christ because, as we're submitted to our husbands supposed to be submitted to Christ. So to DonTaé's point, I think that a lot of young ladies, we don't realize how important it is to be gentle and kind of be mindful of if we are interacting even with a guy that we're interested in a way that I won't say shows as though we have to audition, but expresses the fact that we do have the intention to trust in the leadership of our husband, and that's something that we're planning to and desiring to do. Especially if we are responding to this young man, like Ciara said earlier, responding to a young man that we have already, kind of discerned and said, man, this guy is he's a leader. I respect him. That's why I'm talking to him, And so I guess, are you saying that you have to, that's something good to see?
Yeah. Do not submit to me if please don't. That's not what I want. Please, no.
We gonna have your babies.
Yeah, please.
No.
But just show that you understand what that means and those qualities so that if we were to get to that point, we don't have that problem.
Right.
You know, we don't have that problem. And one thing that I think is important to point out too is that we have kind of clouded what submit means. And when I say we, I don't mean just women, us in general.
Yeah.
Because there are men who have thought that submit means that, no, you're going to have a meal when I get home ready every day.
Mm-hmm.
Submit can mean that we've agreed that I'm going to cook the meals. Or that we agreed that part of our mission is that I'm going to have Wednesday and Thursday or whatever the case may be. So I feel like because we have put our beliefs and, well, we have let the world kind of tell us what that should mean, I think that has played a role in women kind of feeling a way about submission too, because it's like, oh, that means I'm a cook. That means you gonna run the finances. Like, no, you might be the one to run the finances. That might be something that you're better at. You know, and I'm all for that in a marriage, us seeing what works best for our situation and our mission and what God told us that we should do.
Come on, having missions in marriage.
And to further zoom out from that, because you said something that kind of stuck out to me. I feel like with that being said, men and women, we also have problems submitting to God.
Ooh.
Okay,
about
the
it.
podcast over. That boy Corey.
Talk about it, King. Talk about it,
What you
King.
mean? What you mean?
So, of course, I mean, we hear what God is commanding us. We hear what he tells us, what he tries to teach us in his word. But while we're down here, we're like, oh, no. In the olden times, you know, that was back then. But now, you know, I'm my own man. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be selfish. I'm going to have my heart hardened. And I feel like we don't really fully submit to God. And I just, I really feel like we just don't fully submit to God, really. We don't listen to him and everything.
And how can we expect somebody to fully submit to us if we can't submit to... I mean, because at the end of the day, right, we're all under God, right?
Absolutely.
So, you know, I think that's why it's so important for both of us to humble ourselves. For the woman to humble herself to her husband and say, yes, I've submitted to you, but that's because you've submitted to God. So I'm not under your leadership. We're under God's leadership.
Absolutely.
You know? So, yeah.
So that was a really good point, DonTaé. And, you know, it makes me think about how, you know, before we are under our husbands as married women, as single women, we are in an uninterrupted fellowship with Christ. So we are to be practicing submission to Christ every day in our singleness. Absolutely. So that by the time we get to a marriage, you know, we've been allowing God to work on our hearts, even in what that means. Like, I know that we practice submitting every day, submitting our expectations in our life to Christ. And all of this is a practice. All of these are to be practiced. And so, Corey, that was a really great point. You know, do we submit to God enough to even know what that means? You're struggling to figure that out because your life is not dedicated and constructed and run by God. And then you try to get into a godly marriage, you know, or a godly courtship leading to marriage, and you're struggling to figure out how to respect, how to love, and how to trust someone's leadership. And you're still in the process of learning how to trust God's leadership.
Wow. So that you not being able to submit to that man don't got nothing to do with that man.
That means you ain't been practicing with God either.
Exactly. Or you haven't had enough single time. You haven't been in your singleness enough. I think Naomi and Ruth were rerouted. You know what I mean? Naomi gave her whole life to her man. When a man died, she gave it to her kids. And, you know, and Ruth the same way. I'm giving my whole life to my man because she didn't have any kids. And when they passed away, they left them in their singleness to do nothing else except for, now I got to trust you, Lord, and submit to you, because who is going to provide for me right now? I don't know. You know, and I guess if you look at Boaz and you see all the things that he has accomplished, you see him letting people glean in his field, or you see him, he very much represented a man that had been submitting to God. Yeah. He was sitting in a high place. You know, they weren't just giving out high places. They weren't just giving out seats. You know what I mean? You could tell that he had been a man under God. So that was a really good point. Really good point.
That is awesome.
Well,
so
if there are any men out there who submit themselves to the Lord, Alisa's available.
Wow. I'm just playing. Whoa. Now, I ain't available unless God sent you. I got a friend with a t-shirt that say, I'm not available unless God sensual.
I think that's me.
That's you. You know what? It is the cool Christian chick sitting across from me. You is right. Shit, don't be pimping me out on the... No, I'm just playing. No. Don't come this way unless you prayed about it.
Well, I think that, men moving forward, you should pray and obey. And women, if you prayed about it and you being led to lay at his feet, do it. It is not against the Bible. It is not against, custom to, express your interest, but do it in a tactful way. Remember that they are human. They still are men. And the way in which, if you wouldn't want somebody to talk to you like that, don't talk to them that way. Right. Step in, express your interest, step back and let him be a man about it.
Yeah. And I think one thing too is I feel like how you approach sets the tone for what it's going to be. So
you will be cutting grass.
If you're not careful, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of.
Depending on the guy, right?
Yeah.
You might be. But also, if you approach from this very sexual manner, I think it's difficult to be upset now when a year down the road, you see that there's no substance there.
Wow.
If you approach from the wrong place. But if you approach in a very intentional manner, that's when you have a solid foundation. And it wasn't just about, like what Alesa was saying earlier, or you approach me because I'm fine, because I look good. But what about this? What about this? When you really get to know me and you see that maybe my personality is this, how will you react to that?
Wow.
So what would y'all's advice be for women who are... I would say very strong-minded and very intelligent. I'm not trying to say anybody's not intelligent, but I know that both Ciara and I have gotten comments about being a bit intimidating, or people seem to need so much time to think. Like, by the time some guys come to us, it's like, I've been liking you for 8 years. You're like, dang, brother, it took you 8 years, to approach me. I was scaring you that bad? Like, man, that's, I'm cool. What's up? So what would your advice be to those women who are like, well, I pursue because I feel like a guy is too scared to talk to me, or they just feel like when they do maybe start those conversations, it does not really amount to, any sort of a obvious interest expression?
Personally, my advice is stay yourselves. Honestly. So, like we said, you can approach with class, you can express your interest, but if he does not have the courage or the drive to go out and pursue you, maybe that's not your husband. Because what if there's a challenge out there in your life? If y'all get married or something like that, and you need him to be a man and step up, but he's intimidated by a woman that he's attracted to, how is he going to tackle that problem? Or is he just going to sit there and want you to do it?
Big fat... Yo, my little brother, let me taste off.
Look at baby brother.
I'm telling you.
Woo!
Telling you. That was a great point. I don't know how I follow that, bro. But so to Corey's point, I feel like it takes a real man to appreciate a strong and confident woman. That's not for everybody. That's not for everybody. And tell my strong and confident women out there who you might feel like you have to approach and you've approached and it hasn't amounted to anything, I would say, really and truly, keep looking. Keep being prayerful about it, because you're a certain type of woman and you deserve a certain type of man. And, if you're approaching people and they can't match your confidence, they're not on your level. And I hate to say level because... I don't want to sound demeaning, but, there's somebody for everybody, right? And the reality is that might not be your person. That just might not be your person, because to Corey's point again, you don't want when y'all are on the road, tire blew out, he don't even know how to handle the situation. He can't even pull out the phone and call roadside assistance, at the very least.
What's the number, baby? What's the number?
And that's exactly what it will
Can you talk to him?
And that's exactly what it will turn to. And not that that's a bad thing, because again, I don't want to put any specific roles on any particular gender. But, women want to feel like they're being taken care of. They want to feel secure, right? As men, that one thing is our job for sure, to make our woman feel secure, right? And if we're in a time in a time of emergency, and I can't handle it and make her feel comfortable and secure, and I'm leaning on her for her to do that to me, then there's a problem there. So I feel like women who are very confident, successful, whatever word you want to put in that pot, understand that person might not be your person. Yeah, you were attracted to them, but you might just need to keep looking and keep being prayerful about it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's good. Keep it moving, sis.
Keep it
moving. Keep it moving. Pray about it. Pray about him.
Now I have a question. So I'm going to try to flip that question around.
Okay.
What would your advice be to guys who are intimidated by women out here? Is there anything that y'all want to speak to those who, those wall huggers who aren't as confident?
I know, right?
I'm gonna give them a hug through the airwaves. We're
But I
giving
want to
hugs
say,
to
let
all
me
the
say this. I don't feel,
wall huggers.
because I feel like I could be a wall hugger, but I don't feel like a wall hugger is necessarily an unconfident person.
Okay.
I feel like we gotta make sure we don't blur the lines there.
Yeah.
Because you could be out and you just don't feel comfortable in that particular situation, but in the right situation, you'll act accordingly and how you based on how you feel. So I feel like I just wanted to clarify that so that, none of my wall hugging fellas out there who are really confident and for real don't feel no type of way,
So if you are a wall hugger and you're inconfident, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you're not. Well, outside of wall hugging, if you're just not as confident, and like, what's your advice to them for trying to approach a woman?
You should always be praying, right? I was thinking about Lil David, right? When he had to go. No,
Lil David, what song he sing?
No,
Oh, King David.
No, well, he was Lil David before he was the king, right?
Okay.
This was after his anointing.
Lil David on the track.
Don't put them two in this together. After he had became anointed, he had like this big old giant thing to do. Like he wanted to go up to Goliath, somebody who everybody was quote unquote intimidated by, and he felt like with the power of God, I can do this thing, I can conquer this thing, right? If you feel like God is calling you to something, now because it's very clear that the Lord was calling David to Goliath. So if you feel like the Lord is calling you to something, but you scared or you feel like you not really quite there yet, you just need to pray about the process, right? It really, for some of us strong women, you would be surprised at of how appreciative or how effective you would be with that rock and that slingshot. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, sometimes it really truly is just the effort for me. Like, if you walking up and you shy about it, first of all, that's precious because I don't know if I walk up to him and say, what's your name? What's your sign? Creep up from behind. Like, hold up. you a little too comfortable. Like, how many babies do you got? So some of us may find it really attractive, because you may have everything except for the approach, but I think it's just like the effort that you put into it. It may just be your time. Come on in the room.
Wow.
Come on in the room.
Not that one.
Oh, that's not the same?
I made mine up. That's not like a real.
Oh.
It's my...
Y'all, Corey is single and he knows gospel. And
but he don't know the lyrics. That's the problem.
Hey,
we're working on it.
Hey, I know the tune now. I can hold out the tune.
He can come to church and snap.
Yeah, no, that's really great advice. He is an expert snapper,
clapper, ad libs, anything.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's a really great point, and I agree that shyness, that authenticity, definitely is something that we like. We don't want you putting on, a big show to come talk to us because we're going to see right through it. You're not being yourself. And, in the same way, we're not probably going to be comfortable if you are like completely just shaken up either. That might make the whole situation a little awkward. So I would say, like Ciara said, be prayerful about it and maybe find an approach that's more comfortable for you too. We're all different people. It was mentioned before that there's different personalities. Some guys and some girls feel more comfortable maybe when the approach is happening, you know, in the midst of conversation or after conversation. Maybe you're not the walk up to a girl and talk to her type of dude, you know. You might have to be someone who enjoys maybe a friendship or some sort of authentic way of meeting to make it both comfortable for you to get a feel for that young lady, because that's what we're all trying to do, is we're trying to kind of assess the situation really fast. I'm trying to assess if you are the type of person that I want to walk away with my personal cell phone number. And dudes are trying to assess in that moment if that is a young lady that they, you know, are interested in from afar. And so we're all just trying to make these assessments in the moment. And so if you need a little bit more time, there's nothing wrong with that. If you need a conversation, there's nothing wrong with that. If you need, you know, a genuine reason to talk to this person, there's nothing wrong with that. But if there's something that is heavy and pressing upon your heart, like Ciara said, definitely pray about it, because you could be given that confidence in the Lord, to be honest. You know, God doesn't want you to miss out on the things that he has for you. And he definitely doesn't want you to be fearful, because fear is not of God. You know, God has not given us a spirit of fear. And so, yeah, I definitely agree. I think you're recognizing that we're all different people. And ladies also don't expect every guy to just walk over with, you know, all this machismo, you know, and just, yeah, what's up, girl? Like, yeah, you know, because, you know, it's funny because we do tend to think sometimes, oh, wow, he was so smooth. But if he's so smooth, once again, he probably have a whole lot of practice. You know, so some of the best approaches, just slithering all around here. Yeah, you real
like the enemy slithering.
Yes, you're real smooth. You're too smooth. You know, but yeah. So you know, I think that's something we don't think about sometimes. Was when the approach is just so manufactured, so practiced, and stuff like that. Yeah, it might have went over really well, but that's also, you know, because it probably has been rehearsed a number of times. So just be authentic, be yourself, and if you're a little shy, you can even say that. I definitely would appreciate if a guy was just like, hey, you know, I was kind of scared to talk to you, you know, but I really couldn't let you, you know, leave without having a chance to maybe chat. So
yeah, I feel like that honesty goes a long way. And one thing I wanted to say too is it's so important to be who you are, to just be you and accept who you are, you know, because you know, for me, I've accepted who I am, and I understand, and this is for everybody, that God is going to bring you your person. You know, so if you're shy, if you're confident, it doesn't matter, because God is going to bring you that person that meshes up perfectly with whoever you are. So I don't want it to sound like we're on here telling anybody to be confident or don't be shy. Be who you are and understand who you are. Be prayerful about a partner or a wife. And God will kind of meet you in the middle where he's like, okay, this is your personality. This is what I put in you.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring you somebody that goes right along with that, so that you don't even feel out of pocket or out of your comfort zone when you're talking to this person. It just feels right.
That's great.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's great.
Amen.
What I was going to ask is, because this has always been unclear to me, and this has frustrated me a little bit. So this is me being real with y'all for a second.
On the real.
On the real. So when I'm dating a woman, I don't mind paying for all the dates. It turns me off, though, when we've decided that we're either exclusive to each other or we're in a relationship and I still have to pay for all the dates. What is your thoughts on that?
I don't even believe in boyfriend and girlfriend.
Okay.
So I just think that we're going to be dating and then you ask to marry me and then we get married.
Okay. That's fair.
Okay.
But
From friend to fiance.
From friend to fiance. But I think if I can afford it and we finna do this thing for the rest of our lives, you know what I mean? I'm not going to lose nothing because you my man forever. So,
Word.
You know what I mean? I don't have anything to lose. I think probably women don't contribute because they feel like, oh, this ain't gonna last, and I don't want to lose no money. That ain't work, and lose his money. I ain't gonna lose my money. But that's because they probably just wholeheartedly aren't invested into the relationship.
I'll say, I think ultimately nobody, male or female, wants to be in love or in relationship with a selfish person. And I think that, you know, most women, especially if you fall into a groove where you've now been going out frequently with this person, it's more of like just a consideration like, hey, I got it this time. Or like, hey, I paid for the popcorn since you paid for the ticket and you keep paying for the ticket. We're aware as well that he keeps signing all the checks, and he keeps adding all the tips and stuff. And so I just think that that's just a consideration thing. Now, some men were taught and were raised to be like, no, she never pays for anything. Like, even in their marriage, they're like, I pay all the bills. Your money is your money. But that's some people are raised that way. And then some people were... well, I forget sometimes that some people are raised that way because that's not how my household is. You know what I mean? Everybody, contribute. Both my parents work. Both of them contribute. And so, but there are some people who are raised to say, no, it's the man's job to pay for everything. And I mean, then the woman don't even touch no doors and they don't do this, And so I just think that it's considerate for a young lady to say, hey, man, I got it. Like, you know what? You dropping all this money just in the interest of, even if I see a future with you too, I don't want you to be out here financially just blowing money every week on me, and you don't got to impress me like that every single week, I just think that's a consideration thing, but it's something that should be talked about for sure.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, if she offers to pay for the whole date, how do you feel about that?
What is the status of the
that's
situation?
Well, just to piggyback back on his question.
If they in a relationship?
He's talking about a relationship.
I mean, Usher said, you gonna come over, take me to see a movie, order Chinese food. Like, I'm saying Usher has a song where he's saying we're trading places.
Yeah.
So, if we together...
He said you gonna open my door, too.
I mean, if we together... I get I think it was a joke.
No, it wasn't.
He was serious. Again, I think in relationships or when you have decided that this is what we're going to be doing for the rest of our life, nobody is above or below.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. I thought that a man supposed to pay the mortgage and I pay the utilities. I had somebody tell me the other day, no, you're not. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'll just be buying you gifts. You just be paying bills and I just be buying you stuff. Me and the kids. I don't know, but really, I think it's something that people should talk about early on, not to be running away from it, because when we take marriage counseling, you're going to need to know how much money I got in my bank account anyway, so.
Yeah. And I find that that's something I shy away from when dating and in a relationship. Like finances, I really never, and I think it just has to do with how I was raised. Like, it's just was something that never was really talked about. Like, that's kind of your business,
I get that.
But I definitely see how it could be so healthy to have those conversations.
So do you plan on sharing bank accounts?
100% though. Yeah.
Okay, so what's the,
I guess, I don't know. Maybe it's the trust factor where it's like, I'm not sure how long you're going to be around, so I don't want you all up in my business.
No, I think that's solid.
Wait, are you talking about like as boyfriend and girlfriend? Or are you talking about
as boyfriend and girlfriend?
Like discussing finances.
Yeah, maybe I'm like...
No, I was talking about the sharing the bank account one.
No!
Oh, okay. You don't share nothing unless you married.
Relax.
We don't share nothing. So
I'm lucky if you know who I bank with. Where do I wire it to, Cash?
To Corey's point, though, like, how do y'all feel about we're not married, but let's say
foolish.
We decide.
Next question.
Nonsense.
Let's say we decide that we're gonna start a little savings account together, like a travel or whatever.
Oh, that's cute.
How do y'all feel about that? It doesn't have to be travel specifically. Let's say it's for an investment fund. Maybe y'all want to start saving if y'all know y'all getting married. Maybe y'all, I don't know. Like,
that's solid. Let's put it in those terms.
Okay.
If you're engaged and you are creating a wedding budget fund and you're both trying to contribute to this and you're not betrothed yet.
Yeah.
That's because the Lord told me to marry you. The Lord told you to marry me. Then we can move forward however way in which we need to. But I'm not boyfriend and girlfriend or nothing.
You're saying you're open to it if that is who is for you?
Yes.
Okay.
We can do everything together. We have become one. I am a firm believer in when you are married, you are one, which means my problems are your problems, and my problems, your money. It's my money, this, that, and the third.
Right.
I can drive your car and not even ask you for the keys because I left my keys and you can drive mine. Like, it's just kind of like we together. So nothing is exempt. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still think that's pretty risky for sure in dating. Dating does not give me any sort of confidence. And I know that there's some people who are so in love. And I saw a music video the other day that featured the artist's current boyfriend. And this is like a young person. And we're just all like, oh my gosh, this could be really bad.
Right.
Because you are clearly really sprung, you know? And I think that I'll say this. I think that we have a society where a lot of young men and young women do not really know how to get what they need or want out of a relationship. And it could be because they were not shown. They maybe didn't grow up in a household where they got to see all the interworkings of, you know, the different roles and the push and pull and things like that. And so even when we talked about a young woman demanding or expecting certain things on a date, you know, and things of that nature, I think there's a lot of young women who don't know how to expect a high quality relationship or expect certain standards from men. So they demand, you know, but seriously, they demand because all we know how to do is verbalize it. Or just, you know, say, well, this is what I need. And so if
this is what I think I need.
This is what I think I need. This is what I know. This is what I think I want, right, out of a relationship. This is the vision I have. I haven't seen that necessarily how that unfolds or what that looks like or how that comes together. But this is what I think I want. And so when you talk about like easing up on some of those gender roles, when you talk about easing up on some of those like who pays for what and how and when, sometimes that's hard to process when it's like, okay, wait, I just got like confident expecting certain things from this man, you know, or from a man. And so, you know, when you talk about paying for the date, like now I'm starting to malfunction a little bit because I don't want to risk or I'm fearful that once I go down that road, I'm not going to be able to get back to a place where I'm respected and I'm like, you know, maintaining that standard that I just got. Like I just figured out how to demand it.
Gotcha.
So
you got a little taste of it and now it's kind of ripping away from
I think that there's a lot of women who are nervous about things like, you know, trusting a guy or, you know, everybody don't want to get played nowadays. It's just like, oh, I don't want to get played. Nah, I'm not going to be too, you know, I'm not going to post your picture. And I agree that you should be private and discerning and you should be wise. But I think that there's so many people who, even when there's nothing to lose, you know, you just have to be a little selfless. Right? You just have to be a little bit, you know, considerate. I think that that's hard for some people because they feel like, well, I'm going to get played, you know, or my respect is I could possibly be risking, you know, my respect if I give too much.
You know what you're reinforcing for me personally? Just how important it is to have healthy households.
Yeah.
You know, with strong marriages, not perfect marriages, strong marriages, because that's where it all starts. That's where it all starts. We're asking each other all these questions, but a lot of the answers for that and how you perceive that is based on what you've seen in your household.
Absolutely.
So what a reminder to us for how important it is to have those healthy marriages, those healthy relationships. That way, when we have kids and they have kids, some of the right things, again, not the perfect things, the right things that we instill in them kind of avoid some of these things. You know, they'll understand that, oh, this is a partnership. It's not just, oh, my dad paid for everything. My dad did X, Y, Z, gender this, gender that.
Right.
It was a partnership. They complemented each other.
Absolutely.
You know, so.
Now, with that being said, how do you feel if, for example, you fall in love with a woman and say you come from a 2-parent household and they come from a 1-parent household or like a broken home possibly.
And vice versa.
Yeah, and vice versa. Like, how would you go about that situation? Like, would you still... I don't want to say, like, you're not going to marry them because, you know, they don't have both of their parents in their lives, but how do you think that would affect your relationship and how would you go forward from that?
Who wants to go first?
I don't see any effect. The reality is none of us have ever been married before, so we can look at a marriage, but we still don't know what it's like to be married.
Okay.
And I don't know. I guess just for me, because I mean, my parents were married, but I never seen them in a marriage. And but that I don't. And sometimes I fear, being with somebody and it possibly going somewhere because I don't know anything about marriage, and then I realize that neither does he. And it'll be it's the joy of doing it together. You all will be able to create a strong household for whatever works for you based off of what you seen, probably because you saw how your dad interacted with your mom, and she would know, well, this is not, I don't want to end up like my mom. I saw her do these things this way. So now, I mean, I know that I am a bit more intentional about being submissive or being intimate or showing a man that he is a man. I go on dates and I order and I tell him what I want him to order me so he can talk to her. It's just, you just do stuff to make him like, I'm willing. But if you're a man and you lead, and you show her how to do things, if it's something that you don't like the way she do it, then you tell her how you want it to be different. So I don't know that it makes a great difference.
Okay.
I think it can, depending on what the situation is, or in certain areas. I think it can, in terms of what someone deems as normal. So, like, there's some things that, growing up in a 2-parent household, I may think is normal, or I may know how that is to be navigated or can be navigated without it blowing up or being like the end of the relationship. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, that's normal. Like, yeah, that don't mean the end, but then for somebody else, that might be like, oh my gosh, like we can't work. Like this seems like this is unmanageable, And so I definitely agree with what Ciara said when she said neither one of us have been married. We still have to like figure this thing out for ourselves. I completely 1000% agree. And I think that is where, mentorship comes in. And I think that's ultimately the biggest blessing of having a healthy marriage example, whether it be your parents or your grandparents or your aunt, uncle, or whoever. It doesn't have to be your parents. But most people who it is their parents, they're valuable because they are a resource or a tool in which they could go to and still be mindful, because sometimes you don't want to be talking to your parents about your marriage, so they won't like your spouse very much. But I think that ultimately that's where mentorship is so important. And Ciara said a key word: intentional. You have to be intentional. If you know there's a cycle that you don't want to repeat, or something that you need to learn, or you really want to see unfolded in your marriage that maybe you have never really seen, unfolded or rolled out, then you're going to have to be super intentional about saying, I don't want to repeat this cycle, because we tend to default back to what we know. When we're not intentional. And 2, that could come with just making sure that you have counsel, because you want to break a generational cycle and you want a successful marriage.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't come from a 2-parent household. So I grew up just me and my mom for the most part. My dad lived here in Georgia. I would visit him a couple times a year sometimes. So I didn't grow up in a 2-parent household. So I would say that, yes, from my perspective, it plays a role when you're pursuing somebody who grew up in that household, in a household like that. So I think what it takes, I won't say that it's not workable. It's very doable. But I think you both have to have an understanding. And you both have to be intentional about seeking that understanding, because there are things that you just won't be able to wrap your mind around because you literally haven't seen it. Haven't seen it. Because for me, I even when I think of my family, because you said your grandparent, you said an aunt or uncle. Now my aunts and uncles are married.
Mine either.
My grandparents are still married, but they're kind of separated.
And see, we only have one divorce on both sides of our family, so, like one between the both sides.
Yeah, and I had, on my dad's side, I had one uncle that was married, and he was super, like, I didn't see him often, and they ended up getting a divorce. So I haven't really seen that, I don't want to say perfect, but that ideal marriage up close and personal. So naturally, there will be things that I can't fathom or wrap my mind around or understand that she might be able to understand. And we both have to understand that. And then I also want it to be clear that just because someone, male or female, came from a 2-person household, that does not mean that they get it.
Right. Right.
That's very
Because
so true.
I have seen that. I have seen that where it's like, and if you're not careful, you'll end up being very disappointed and watching them a certain type of way because you're like, you grew up in a 2-parent household. How do you not understand this?
Because what happens behind those doors, it, like you said, healthy.
Ain't no
And
telling.
sometimes it could be healthy from what it looks like. I know some people who, you know, you still could be missing stuff.
Right.
You didn't have both your parents in your home, and so you never saw like them argue and like resolve a situation. But there's
Exactly.
some people who've never seen their married parents argue.
Exactly.
And so they are at the same deficiency as you are in terms of like, okay, but I still don't know how to get from point A to point B in this situation
Right.
because either my parents weren't transparent or they were broken in this area
Right.
too.
Or they
So
kept me at arm's length.
Right.
Or they tried to make it seem like we were perfect.
Right.
You know, and man, it's just, and this just goes back to how we just have to be so careful,
Yeah.
you know, in relationships, in marriages, because it's so crazy how you can, I don't want to say mess up, but you can lead the next generation astray, you know, by trying to be too perfect. And I get it, you know, some depending on how old that child is in that household, you might want to keep them at arm's length. You know,
Right.
everything is in a child's place, but they're going to come of age where you might want to sit them down and explain, hey, me and dad had an argument. You know, this is what it was. We said this, but we came to this conclusion. This is how we got to this conclusion. You know, I feel like those mature conversations go so far, you know, because I have definitely seen both. You know, I've seen it where that other person grew up in a 2-parent household and they had a great perspective on marriage and relationships and things that are of that matter. But I've also seen the other side where they did, but it's almost like they were in that household and they were like at the other end of the house, and the marriage was happening on the north end of the house.
Wow.
And they were on the other end. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I just want to make sure that we're being clear that, hey, there's no surety that if you are pursuing somebody that grew up in that household that they're gonna
Very true.
understand. They might be very well be in the same boat as you,
Yeah.
if not worse. You know.
I think those definitely affect people's expectations and also optimism, you know, because like when you mentioned that you only had maybe a couple of marriage examples, there could be a optimism that someone who's had a lot of examples has, like even like the cheating topic or something, like all men cheat. I'm like, well, I know a lot of men who don't, you know, and then there's some people who don't know any that don't cheat, you know, and so it's I think there's a number of factors that are definitely affected, but communication, intention, mentorship, and prayer, I think can get you from point A to point B because nobody is eternally broken, you know, and ignorant. And if what you don't have or what you didn't get just wasn't just given to you, you can go and get. And that's with the beauty of us having this abundant life that is available to us through Jesus Christ is, you know, he reconciles a lot of things, and we have a lot of opportunity to go and educate ourselves on topics, on situations, on relationships, on, you know, just there's some people don't even know stuff till they have roommates. You know what I'm saying? In terms of like just living and functioning and stuff. So there's a whole lot of ways for us to always constantly being improved people, and relationships are no different.
Yeah, and I just feel like if you are anything like me and you didn't grow up seeing that, don't be discouraged, you know, because to Elisa's point, you can seek mentorship. You know, I could think of so many, because we all go to the same church, I could think of so many examples within the church, you know, and those people will happily answer your question. Those people will happily sit down with you. Of course, they have their struggles, you know, but it's how they navigate through those struggles.
Right.
That's the information that we need, you know. So
I like that. I
That's
like what
really
you just
good.
said about the difference between a healthy relationship and a strong relationship.
yeah.
Nah, but we just wanted to bring this conversation to y'all, man, because, this is a conversation that Ciara and I have had, and we just felt like it was incomplete. We felt like we were sitting here as two women deciphering the intentions and the thoughts of men, and why not have brothers on here?
Absolutely.
To tell us directly, because I think
yes,
absolutely,
we enjoyed this.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm Ciara,
and I'm Alesa,
I'm Corey,
and I'm DonTaé,
and this is how you navigate with faith. Thank you for listening to the Navigate with Faith podcast.
We want to give a special thank you to DonTaé Hodge, our executive producer and editor.
And thank you to the Pigment Playground for designing our show artwork and graphics. Music by Turn Me Up JCav.
This episode was recorded at Listen Up Audio in Atlanta, Georgia. Subscribe to the Navigate with Faith podcast on your favorite platform.
And follow us on social media at Navigate with Faith on Instagram and Facebook, and Navigate W Faith on Twitter.